From a claustrophobic office to an entire 80s themed mall, FNAF has introduced players to a lot of different environments, some feeling a little scarier than others, but all of them serving a very important purpose. Hey girls, guys, and all people alike, it is Mox here, and hello, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be exploring the various environments in Five Nights at Freddy's. I want to walk you through the empty halls of FNAF 1 to the enormous pizzaplex of Security Breach, but today we're going to be paying special attention to FNAF 1 through 3, and in a part 2 we'll talk about FNAF 4 all the way up to Security Breach. If you want to watch that video when it comes out, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more. Most importantly, we need to ask, why are these environments important? Surely anywhere kind of creepy would work, right? Well, to start, we have the overall genre to think about, mascot horror. I suppose you could have a security guard watching cameras in a park and the animatronics got out somehow, but you start to realize pretty quickly how fundamentally less scary that is because it's kind of less realistic, and why things like that hurt Security Breach, but we'll talk more on that in part 2. From FNAF 1 to Pizzeria Simulator, you find yourself isolated in a cramped space with varying levels of decay and neglect, but never lacking in dread and mystery. In the games where you play in an office, it's typically not very well maintained. Even at the best of times, like FNAF 2's vibrant office, accompanying brand new animatronics and furnishings, there's still constant hints to the more rundown parts of the franchise in the cameras. Broken down, withered animatronics can be found in parts in service, and a disfigured and downright dangerous animatronic, Mangle, is supposedly being used as a take apart and put back together attraction. That's FNAF environments at its best, still absolutely terrifying. And at its worst, there's always issues with the power, flickering lights, cameras that glitch, and ventilation systems that are so lacking you might even start to hallucinate. But these claustrophobic rooms from hell serve another purpose besides making you question every little noise you hear. Each of them serves a unique purpose to the story. We'll go more into detail on how each of them does that differently in a moment, but whether it's obvious missing children's posters on the wall or a suspiciously familiar lamp, every location, every camera, every glitch in the system all tells a story. A story of rotting animatronics, a company in disrepair, grief beyond measure, and an unsettling emptiness. But how do these environments tell that story? Let me break it down for you. Let's go back to the very beginning, Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. According to Phone Guy, the only source of proper dialogue in this and a few other FNAF games,
a magical place for kids and grown-ups alike, where fantasy and fun come to life.
It presents itself as your typical 90s kids entertainment space. If you're still young but long for the days of your youth, like me, it might remind you of a place like Chuck E. Cheese. If you're still young but you like saying whatever catchphrase is trending on the internet, it's like playing video games but in a room with a bunch of other kids, and there's a big anthropomorphic animatronic rat there with his friends, and they're singing songs and they're dancing, but it's not scary, I promise. It's really not. It actually makes up some of your fondest memories that you wish you could experience again. But when you go to see if you can get in and have a slice of pizza, you're told no, because you're a grown adult with no child present. So it would be weird to let you in, and then they shut down because no one goes there anymore. Well, I bet you wish you let me have that slice of pizza now, didn't you, Charles Cheese, you I mean, honestly, it's great, yeah. This being the first in the franchise, it really set the tone, and it set that tone amazingly. You are the security guard, sat in a small, dark, cobweb-ridden office with a set of doors on either side and cameras to help you keep watch over Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. However, the office alone makes you feel cornered and trapped. The open doors that require power to stay closed leaves you feeling exposed to anyone or anything lurking in the dark halls. The only comforting sound being a desk fan, blowing dusty air, below a poster, and a collection of children's drawings. In the day, hell, maybe even with just one more light on, these things might be wholesome to see, comforting even. But here in the dark, where you know you heard something move outside, every poster or arts and crafts piece is another face staring at you, giving you clues as to what's coming after you. But hey, let's open the cameras. Surely looking around and seeing there's no one there will help. However, when you do, you see the lifeless eyes of 3 huge animatronics staring blankly into the darkness. And for just a second, you think one of them turned and looked at you. Okay, let's look at some other cameras. But the more you look, the more these spaces start to feel dark, empty, and lonely in a place that's designed to be filled with life and children's laughter. The posters and drawings on the wall you see now don't only strike you with a sense of impending doom, but a sense of intrigue too. Then you start to see things that you didn't notice before. There's articles on the walls talking about children going missing. Their bodies still haven't been found. There's an out of order sign over Pirates Cove. I wonder what happened there. Maybe something to do with the disappearances, or this bite the phone guy mentioned. Hold on, what happened to the posters on the walls? They're all drawings of a crying child now, and I keep seeing the words, "It's me." Why is Freddy's fur yellow in this poster? FNAF 1 is definitely within my top 3 FNAF games. It's simply authentic fear poured into such a small space. And the rest of the games follow suit, only expanding on this original idea. Something that helps this is the audio. The atmosphere created by the audio in these games could be studied in its own huge breakdown video. But even the ambient sounds here make you feel alone, trapped in this once joyous place left to ruin with something else. Like I mentioned earlier, FNAF 2 was a bright, shiny departure from the old animatronics and pizzeria. Now we find ourselves in a brand new location with new and improved toy animatronics, but we're not here to talk about them. We'll save that for another video. And this new coat of paint doesn't spell out safety for us anyway. Now instead of 2 doors to watch, you're more exposed than ever. There's a giant dark hallway in front of you and 2 vents just large enough to fit a body. Now I don't know about you, but FNAF 2 came as a bit of a surprise to me at the time. We just managed to survive the last week at the old pizzeria. Why would we come back? It takes until we beat the game, but we eventually realize this isn't the same place, and it's not even the same year as before. There must be some other reason that we're here again, but that's more story, lore, theory, things that we won't get into right now. For now, all we know is that it seems like Fazbear's, and by extension, Five Nights at Freddy's, is getting a facelift. We're moving on from the dark, gloomy past onto new and more terrifying things ahead. Like FNAF 1, there is a plethora of hidden lore and secrets to discover in this game, but FNAF 2 takes it to the next level. Most of these secrets are in the form of animatronic Easter eggs, but the various rooms of this new pizzeria are just as interesting as the original. While it doesn't feel as liminal to me because we don't see as many wide open spaces, the rooms we do see give you a sense that despite Fazbear Entertainment's best efforts to cover it up, there are still numerous bad practices taking place here. Still some lingering darkness in the location itself. But hey, your office is a lot brighter now, more inviting at first glance. Taking a second look, however, you notice the glaring problems. There are posters, drawings, and papers absolutely covering the walls. The poster is a little nicer to look at than the first, but the papers are a clear sign of disorganization. Are they notices of some problems in the building? Complaints from concerned parents? Or maybe something worse? Either way, it can't be good. Then there's the drawings. The ones in the first game weren't exactly comforting, but these just feel slightly darker, more unnerving. There's more animatronics in them too. Who is this new dark, lanky figure seemingly giving a gift of some kind? And why does Freddy have yellow fur again? Just like in the poster of the last location. Wait, was that paper plate always there? I'm not sure, but it's hard to tell with all these, wires on the walls? And tubes too, just dangling from the ceiling. But what purpose do they serve? It is the 80s after all, and who knows what shortcuts were taken when building this place. It's so strange that they just dangle and twist like that, almost like tendrils just creeping from above. But it's best not to focus on that when there's an obvious tripping hazard ahead. Why are there monitors and screens just stacked up on the floor near the hall? Maybe it is just a sign of the times. It is 1987. Things get old, they break down. But there's still use for them, right? Maybe for spare parts? Speaking of which, let's check those cameras. Okay, the animatronics on the stage aren't so bad this time, but looking around, this place feels a little smaller? It looks like the rebrand didn't come with a larger space, but I'm not surprised. I heard the last place had to shut down because of some kind of tragedy. And looking around some more, you see a dark room with some weird figures on the ground. You flash the light and are met with a mess of broken down, withering animatronics. That cannot be safe. But hey, look at that. Phone guy says they're being used for spare parts. It feels a little strange though to just pick them apart like that, but that's nothing in comparison to the animatronic in this room. Kind of hard to see with all the static and even more wires hanging everywhere. But this is supposed to be a party room. Why is there some mangled animatronic just sitting there? Well, at least the carousel looks brand new and safe. This room gives me the most liminal space vibes in FNAF 2. The music of the carousel just barely audible amongst the static and glitches of the old camera system paired with those lifeless eyes. I just hope this place is a little nicer during the day when it's filled with kids. You know whose eyes aren't lifeless? Balloon Boy. Like he's intended to cause harm and break your spirit. That's not environment related. I just don't like Balloon Boy. So many things are just left in disrepair in this place. I'm surprised anyone brings their kids here. But what's in this room? It seems fairly nice. Prizes on the wall, balloons, decorations, and a huge present in the center. It's playing a strange tune though, almost like a music box. Is it supposed to be opening like that? The music seems to be getting a little faster too. Oh god, something's coming out of it. It's the same shape as the drawings on the walls, and it looks like it's crying. Last but certainly not least, we have FNAF 3 Fazbear Frights. And by now, you all know about the dark past of Fazbear Entertainment, the missing children, the rancid smell from the animatronics, the decomposing restaurants, etc. So, welcome to Fazbear Frights, a place where we build off of all that tragedy to give you a unique horror experience. Remember the rumors about the killer wearing the suits of one of the animatronics to kill all those kids? Imagine being them, huh? But now you won't need to. You can actually experience that fear walking down the halls while spooks and frights lurk around every corner. I'm sorry, what? Insensitive? No, I mean, come on, someone had to do something with all this old junk. We even managed to find a genuine Springlock Bonnie suit in some old boarded up room. Not that you need to worry, you're just the security guard. All you need to do is sit in this very scary room and make sure nobody steals anything or gets hurt or anything like that. But alright, make sure you don't get too scared. It's all an attraction, remember? And that's one of my big issues with FNAF 3. FNAF 2 managed to be bright and vibrant while still delivering a terrifying environment and atmosphere, while FNAF 3 is designed to be scary, which makes it inherently less so. It's kind of like playing a rage game or knowing someone is trying to annoy you. At first it's aggravating because it's frustrating, but once you take a step back and realize that it's trying to upset you, it's not that upsetting anymore. You know you're meant to fail the challenge, so why let it get to you? And don't get me wrong, FNAF 3 is one of my all-time favorite FNAF games. It introduced one of my favorite villains in media with a perfect character design that ties into the overall story so well. The lore you discover in this game is so cool, you really feel like it's all coming together. That is until you hear there's another game coming out after this, and you feel like this story just won't ever end. But when you ignore the fact that these walls are dirty on purpose and the wires are dangling to make you think something is touching your neck, the things Fazbear Frights has filled the office with really makes you feel like this is the culmination of years of location after location of failure. It takes everything a company and the people behind that company tried to build and flips it upside down. These children's entertainers are nothing but a cheap scare at a haunted house. As a bit of a collector though, they did admittedly find some good stuff. A whole box full of animatronic heads and limbs, authentic drawings that were once hanging proudly in Freddy's, arcade machines, and so much more. This is FNAF at its most rotted, and that works perfectly for the thing hunting you. But that's all just some rumors, right? This new guy on the phone doesn't sound worried, so I shouldn't either. Let's just check these cameras and get through the night. Wow, these set pieces are pretty well made. The light shining through the old animatronic heads. It's almost like they're still looking out. I bet those kids would hate to see this place. I hope one day it can all shut down and they'll be at peace. This mask is a little strange though. Reminds me of something we've seen before. I wonder what happened to this animatronic. That's odd. I mean, it is supposed to be scary, but it's kind of a weird face to put on the screen. There's actually a lot of weird stuff like that going on. I thought the goal was to scare the customers. I don't get why so many of these things are facing the cameras. But I must just be seeing things. It is getting a little hard to breathe in here. I should reset the vents. Oh crap, the vents. I forgot those have cameras too. Okay, that was a weird sound, but it's probably just another audio glitch. Speaking of audio, it's kind of strange that we can play all those old Balloon Boy sounds, but I bet it gives people a good spook. Probably reminds them of almost tasting success, then failing horribly. Sorry. Anyway, looks like we stumbled across that new find of theirs, the Springlock Bonnie. It looks terrible, but I guess that's good for a haunted house. It looks so real though. You can almost see the guy's corpse inside, almost like he's spring trapped. Oh my god, is that what the script says? No, that's not what the script said, but don't. Oh. You're making my job hard enough as it is, trying to cut around all your puns. Just the shit that you're saying. Stick to the script, please. Fine. Also, this light. What's up with this light? This is supposed to be green. FNAF is green. Come on now. What's going on here? Sorry about that. Anyway, like I was saying, this place is much less scary than the first two locations, and I think a big reason for that is because it's trying to be, but that doesn't make it any less interesting. Seeing all these relics like this in their absolute worst state really goes to show how far this company, once dedicated to making children happy, has fallen. And now you're stuck here with a corpse. Well, I could have sworn it was in this camera. Okay, I better reset the cameras. All I can see is a weird glowing, is that an eye? Alright, well now that we've explored the environments in FNAF 1 through 3 in depth, it's worth wondering, what is each environment trying to achieve? Like I said in the beginning of the video, each of these scenes serves a purpose beyond just being scary. They all connect to the lore, and they need to. The majority of FNAF games don't have much dialogue or cutscenes to show what is and what has happened, so we rely on the environment for a kind of passive storytelling as well as straight up lore drops. This is obviously excluding the minigames, which we'll talk about in another video. And FNAF does this passive and active storytelling very cleverly. You don't have access to all the hints and clues right off the bat. You have to play the games, sometimes over and over for even a small chance to find something. From a gameplay perspective, it's genius and adds a lot of replayability for people that really care for the story. These random chances at finding new clues makes the environments dynamic in a very important way. Without that, these scenes are mostly just static images of places we're not able to visit ourselves. Having them change and show you something new on occasion, it really makes you feel almost like the place itself is alive and trying to tell you something. Like the animatronics want you to know their story. The glitches and sound effects too are all small parts making up these environments and trying to send you a message. The FNAF 1 office and surrounding environments are arguably the most and least interesting at the same time. At the time, it was all we had. It was the most mystery we could ask for. But nowadays we have mini-games, cutscenes, and hidden screens beyond count. FNAF 1 was just the start. And as the start, its main purpose was to make you, the player, feel scared. The small dark office is designed to be claustrophobic, low-tech, and in a state of disarray. This all comes together perfectly when paired with a location that is meant to be inherently happy and fun. It's the same reason I love liminal spaces. Seeing what should be a place of hustle and bustle, completely devoid of life, is troubling, but it is also so interesting. It begs you to question what happened here. You can't help but wonder and obsess over the story behind this place. That, paired with the hints and clues of what really did happen here, it's not hard to get hooked. And FNAF 2 was a strong sequel, even becoming a fan favorite. It introduced a bunch of well-designed characters, added to the already addicting lore, and made the player feel scared despite being in an objectively friendlier location. So maybe FNAF 2's office and surroundings weren't designed to be as scary as it could be, but it more than made up for that with its improvements everywhere else. FNAF 1's pizzeria feels like a place you want to run away from to survive, while FNAF 2 feels like a place you want to survive to continue exploring. Now, if FNAF 2 wasn't made solely to frighten you, then FNAF 3 takes that up quite a few steps. I can't say for certain if Scott purposely designed it this way, but like I said a minute ago, it feels like it's scary for the sake of it and not naturally scary. It is, of course, a haunted house, and those tend to feel very artificial. I'm sure that part was intentional, but it lacking in true horror might just be a product of audiences being desensitized at this point. This was the third game in the series, and people were starting to find insane strategies that required constant replaying to master. So much replaying that dying was more of a nuisance than something to really be afraid of. But much like FNAF 2, maybe it wasn't designed with outright fear in mind. The lore we learned throughout this game more than made up for that for me, and it has become one of my all-time favorites in the franchise. So to me, it served a very important purpose. Knowing that not all FNAF games are created equal makes it hard to compare and contrast them fairly, but I will say these first three were my favorites for years, and the environments were a massive part of that. You might have noticed I mentioned liminal spaces a few times, and it's not just because there's a strong case to be made with FNAF's relation to the genre, but because I love them. These three games feel very relatable timeline-wise, despite obviously me not growing up in the 80s. It just feels more grounded and relatable for me, and not to mention much easier to follow story-wise. And that's saying something, because the story has been a mess from the start. What I can fairly compare is the technological advances and changes made throughout these games. FNAF 1 and 2 were made completely in a 2D space, if I'm not mistaken. The office is just one image stretched across the screen to fake perspective and depth. The cameras, much like the office, are just 2D images with being replaced with other 2D images when animatronics pop in and out of them. This is why games like FNAF in real time are so interesting to me and a lot of other people, because it's so cool to see the animatronics walking around and actually interacting with the environment around them. It really adds something to the games. Speaking of FNAF in real time, if you want to watch any of those videos, link down in the description below. And you can catch those right after we get out of these spooky offices. At the time, these 2D spaces worked really well for a small indie horror game, but nowadays it tends to show its age a lot more, especially when compared to newer titles. In the modern day, playing those games, the images are real stretched out, and you can kind of just tell they weren't made for such high definition screens. However, I think all the games after this started to use more 3D assets, and we eventually got full 3D spaces we can walk around in, like FNAF Security Breach. I don't think the use of these 3D models and environments were a bad choice at all, but I do think there are some other issues with the visuals in the franchise moving forward. But going back to FNAF 3, the office just felt way too bright. You can see there are more lights, and we know there are no power issues in this location, but making the office this bright and green just serves to take away from what could have been a good addition to the horror elements of this game. Yes, FNAF 2 is arguably much more bright and a lot more vibrant, of course, but as the successor to FNAF 1's cramped office, the huge abyss of a hallway leaving you exposed makes up for the lighting, in my opinion. FNAF 3 also has an outer hallway, but even that is completely lit up. As someone who obviously enjoys exploring these environments, I'm happy that I can see everything, but as a player and an enjoyer of horror games, this is a bit of a downgrade for me. But again, FNAF 3 just might not have really had hardcore horror in mind, and that is okay. I love all the FNAF offices and locations and spaces in their own way, and they all serve their own purposes. I think it's truly impressive how, even if they aren't all the scariest, they make us feel a sense of fear, unease, loneliness, and even sadness at times for a series of games that has an admittedly silly premise: ghost children possessing robot anthropomorphic animals. But we have now officially explored the environments in FNAF 1, 2, and 3, but make sure you stay tuned for FNAF 4 all the way up to Security Breach, but mostly Pizzeria Sim and Ultimate Custom Mode. I don't know too much about Security Breach, not my favorite of games, but I will be making comparisons to Security Breach for the sake of the, comparing the environments to each other. But FNAF 4 all the way up to Pizzeria Sim has some absolutely insane differences in the environments, so I'm super excited to get to those as soon as possible. But in the meantime, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more. And while you're down there, why don't you let me know what your favorite FNAF scene is, and whether it's an office, a particular camera from a certain game, a back room, anything else. And also, happy holidays. I hope you guys had an amazing holiday season. This video, I think, is going up on New Year's Day, so happy New Year's. This past year has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed the videos that we put out this year, and I'm really trying to dig deep and get back into YouTube and everything like that. We had a bit of a little mishap where we had to be an adult for a moment and, you know, dude, God, that was rough. But I've really been enjoying the videos we've been making. There are definitely going to be schedule changes going forward and things like that, but I will make sure to keep you guys updated. And if you want to be really up to date, you can click that join button down below. Helps with the channel a whole bunch, no pressure whatsoever, but it does help me out a lot, and it gives you access to like behind the scenes stuff. You get to see members only videos that I will definitely be working on soon, I promise. And it also gives you a way to interact with me a lot more directly. You might occasionally even have control over what video comes out next. And I think that type of stuff is so cool, and I cannot wait to interact with you guys in that way. But yeah, that's gonna be just about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more. I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.